Well, millions of Americans have already cast their ballots, but come Election Day, will your vote count? It's a question on many people's minds after recent reports of possible interference from foreign countries. Danny Monteverde spoke with President Trump's head of Homeland Security to learn about his concerns.
Recent hurricanes that left Louisiana limping along are why acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf wound up in Algiers on Friday morning.
This will be my third visit to the state within several months.
He met with the Coast Guard and FEMA to ensure that the right response is happening. Aside from natural disasters, Wolf says he's also focused on the upcoming election.
My greatest concern is we're going to have, again, certain nation states such as Iran, Russia, China, who will try to say that they have compromised the system when in fact they have not. And again, it's part of that disinformation campaign.
While there have been reports in recent days of foreign adversaries trying to influence voters in some states, Wolf says there's nothing to worry about locally. Anything here in Louisiana or the New Orleans area that voters should be concerned about?
No, not specifically.
Our interview with Wolf happened as Reuters broke the news that the Louisiana National Guard was called in to help stop cyber attacks aimed at smaller governments in the state. The article says, quote, "It is unclear if the hackers sought to target systems tied to the election in Louisiana or were simply hoping for a payday." Wolf said the Department of Homeland Security and all 50 secretaries of state who oversee elections have faster and more direct lines of communication these days, so threats should be caught quickly.
And we have a number of states, including Louisiana, that are using some of our cyber services from the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that their systems are secure as they can be.
He says there's one goal this time of year.
Residents here in Louisiana and again all across the country should take some comfort in knowing that whether they're voting today or they're voting on Election Day, that their vote will count.
Danny Monteverde, Eyewitness News.
Well, Wolf says his department is ready to respond if any state believes that this election system has been hacked or affected in any other way. And remember, early voting ends next Tuesday. Those sites are also closed on Sunday. You can text the word vote to 529-4444 for a sample ballot or for information on where to vote in your parish.